Hey guys, this is Rambos here with another StarCraft 2 video commentary. In this game we have cheesechild versus jpup on Steps of War. This is a Protoss versus Terran. Cheesechild is in the upper starting position as Protoss, and jpup is in the lower as Terran. And as you know, there are only two starting positions, so I'm not going to try to bother with looking at my watch and figuring out what's going on, which is made even more complicated by the fact that I do not, in fact, wear watches. So all of those little o'clock positions are just completely beyond me. Clocks with hands are just really confusing. Digital clocks are the way of the future and the way to go. Looks like cheesechild is placing on a pylon and not going to bother with an early scouting probe. jpup in the meantime is scouting with his first SCV, not his first SCV, but before he builds the barracks, so I'm just going to say his first SCV is his first SCV that moves all past the mineral line and goes to do adventure in the world beyond. Go, brave little SCV, go forth into the world, and bring back tales of what you see, and actually probably die to a probe at some point, or a zealot, just because the information is that frickin' valuable. We see that jpup does scout cheesechild, and cheesechild does not appear to be going any sort of cheese. jpup can see that that first pylon is indeed in cheesechild's base, and he probably is aware of his opponent's name, so he's just going to wait for that first gateway to go down, and he's going to see that momentarily. This SCV is going to go right through that. If you watch the little green line, it looks like the SCV is smart enough to go around. That SCV would just get fragged by that frickin' black hole warping in. That would be like a mothership, except a morphing in building, just destroying the SCV. Awful end for a scouting dude. And it looks like cheesechild is scouting with his own probe in the meantime. jpup has not completed his wall off, so that probe is going to get in, and very nice timing with that second supply depot by jpup just in time to block off that probe, so cheesechild is going to have no idea what jpup is doing. But, you know, it's PvP. It's pretty safe to assume that jpup is going to go some sort of M&M, spam a bunch of EMP, and thoroughly rape him all game. Lol. That's totally not true, as I'm sure all of you are aware. PvT is an interesting matchup, and it's kind of dynamic, but Terran does not absolutely dominate it. Looks like cheesechild has morphed in his first gateway, and he is probably going to have a cyber core coming up right now. We're going to wait for it. No, a second gateway, and jpup's SCV is actually leaving too soon to spot this. Bit of a blunder on his part. It looks like jpup's adding on a second barracks. He's just going to pump out a straight infantry army. He is getting that orbital command up, and that orbital command is going to enable him to gain a huge economic advantage, as long as both players are on even basis, with the horrible disadvantage that jpup will just mow through these blue minerals, and gold minerals later on when he gets to them, like they're candy, and he will run out and he will be forced to expand. Kind of forces him to play a little bit more aggressively, but it also gives him the tools to do so, just because he's up income all game. It looks like this SCV, this brave scouting SCV, is going to come right back up in, and he's going to scout the cheesechild. Does have a second gateway coming up before his cyber core, but he does have a cyber core coming up, so jpup can be on the lookout for immortals and colossuses and high templars and dark templars and void rays and phoenixes and motherships and carriers and all sorts of fun later Protoss tech things. Also stalkers and sentries, just because those need a cyber core too, in addition to all those units that need a building plus a cyber core. And it looks like cheesechild has not put drones on his second gas yet. He has not put probes on his second gas yet. It's kind of funny. Whenever I'm commentating Zerg, I always call them probes. Whenever I'm commentating Protoss, I always call them drones. So, I think I've got a little bit of racial confusion going on right here. And cheesechild is adding on a robotics facility. Most standard thing in the world. Immortals are amazing. Colossi can be transitioned to whenever cheesechild feels safe, and they're also amazing. I believe the standard transition is after he gets his first expo up. jpup appears to be saving a little bit of energy on this orbital command. He's not going to go for a very early scan, and he is actually pushing out with 2 marauders and 1 marine. These are not going to be able to get here before these stalkers get out, so he's not going to be able to do any damage with those. A scouting SCV does go down, but not before seeing that robotics facility. The robotics facility is not going to get cancelled. cheesechild is way too invested, and it is way too good for him to mess around with any sort of tomfoolery in that department. Looks like these first couple of marauders are going to see that they're outnumbered and run away immediately. You'd think that with you know, those really buff guys in those really big suits, they would be kind of adverse to running away, but I guess they're just as chicken as the rest of us when they realize that they're going to die. Because they were going to die, because stalkers are really cool. jpup's adding on a Ghost Academy and a third barracks, so he's just getting set up for some infantry on infantry action, and it does look like cheesechild is going to get an observer out first, so that he knows exactly what jpup is doing, so that he knows if he has to build anti-air in the case of banshees, if he has to get blink in the case of tanks, or if he has to make some other tech consideration in response to his opponent. Both players are playing relatively solid macro games. If we just pop on over to the army tab right here, we can see that jpup has 3 Marines and 6 Marauders to 5 Zealots, 2 Stalkers, and 1 Sentry. And that's pretty even. I mean, it's not the most matched up thing in the world. I'm actually going to go over to resources. Looks like jpup is actually 5 food behind, and he's flooding a little bit of minerals, or he was a moment ago. But it looks like he has gotten rid of all of those minerals, and he does have ghosts coming up, and those ghosts are going to absolutely make all of the difference when these engagements do start happening. These agents EMP all of the shields off of this first immortal that is coming up for cheesechild, and that will massively reduce the effectiveness of the immortal, because immortals do reduce marauder damage by half with their hardened shields, and without their shields, those marauders are going to be able to do much better. Marines don't really worry about hardened shields, but Marines don't really do that much damage to armored units compared to marauders anyway. Looks like jpup has not gotten stim yet, and this is before concussive shells, so marauders come with being absolutely overpowered, and they can kite around things forever like ballers. If we look on over to the Harvesters tab, we can see that jpup is ahead of his opponent despite being down on probes, or SCVs, or whatever the racial equivalent is, just because he does have the benefit of mules, and that is stellar. Good for him. Go Terran. Another immortal coming out for cheesechild right here. After the second immortal comes out, he's probably going to try to push in to jpup's base. Looks like he does have an observer up in jpup's base, so if he can get any sort of a proxy pylon, he can get up there. And if he had blink researched, which he does not, he can link up there, but he does not have blink researched, and he does not have a proxy pylon in the area, so he's not going to be able to do any sort of interesting antics. jpup is moving out at the exact same time. Very interesting play by both players. And it looks like I am wrong. cheesechild is not moving out. cheesechild does know that jpup is moving out because of this observer. This observer did get a good idea of vision, and of course it doesn't have vision anymore because it is moving out. Kind of curious what it's doing. Looks like that observer is just going to wait for jpup to expand. jpup's second command center is coming down right now. The command center is just going to be able to lift right on over, and it's going to be very well defended, well built. And because cheesechild has scouted this, he is going to build an expansion of his own, and he's going to move down his own force. And it looks like we are shaping up to see our first battle, and this pylon in construction gets taken down before it gets cancelled. Nice EMP going off on the entire Protoss force, everything out of shields. It looks like jpup is just going to be able to chew through cheesechild's army momentarily. The Zealots are doing a whole bunch of damage as they are able to get to melee range, but with a little bit of focus firing from jpup, this immortal gets taken out, and then the stalkers get taken down, no problem. Looks like cheesechild is going to be forced to cancel his expo. He does have... His warp gates actually weren't up yet, and he wasn't producing anything, so it looks like cheesechild is caught with his pants down, so to speak, because he's got no reinforcements up. He's got literally no army right now. And jpup is going to be able to push up in, and he's going to be able to pick off this immortal as soon as it comes off. But it looks like a whole bunch of zealots were able to be warped in, out of sight of jpup where they couldn't be picked up. And these immortals are going to be able to pick off that ghost, and these marauders are taking a whole bunch of damage. These marauders are probably going to go down momentarily. These marauders are at very low health. These marauders are dying. No, come on, run! Marauder dead. And this ghost is going to get taken down as well. Not really sure why it's turning around there. Bit of a hero ghost. But jpup does have the advantage in that he was able to knock out the entirety of his opponent's army and force his opponent to cancel his expansion, even though he was a little bit too aggressive with those. To be fair, though, I totally would have done the same thing. Looked like he totally caught his opponent with his pants down, literally. Such a lovely metaphor. Looks like jpup is continuing to produce a couple more ghosts just to make up for those ghosts that he lost to the Zealots, and he's adding on a factory so he can eventually get either some later tech or tanks. The tanks do very well, especially in conjunction with EMP. They aren't so hot against immortals without EMP, but once EMP starts getting thrown in, they just chew through Protoss, ground units alike, and nothing. Tanks are also very nice against Colossus. Coloxen, as Day 9 would say. And if we pop on over to the resources tab, we can see that jpup is up a little bit, but not that much, which is interesting considering he was lagging before. jpup is going to go straight for the gold. I just got finished commentating one of his other games, and you should watch it because it was interesting, and he did the same thing in that game too. Looks like he's just abusing the fact that he can lift this command center to anywhere he wants after it is built, and he is going to use that to gain a massive economic advantage over his opponent relatively quickly. This observer is not going to see that. It looks like this observer is going to be very unlucky and miss that command center. This command center actually isn't going to go for the gold. This command center is going for the semi-island. Bit of an interesting move. That semi-island is going to be very easy to defend, and I'm missing a battle. A couple of zealots very low HP being cut away by a couple of marauders. Looks like an EMP did go off, which is why all of these zealots are at low HP, but it does look like cheesechild is able to hold this off.